We same setup as the past 21 episodes. Luke and I go through the week of wrestling and review Monday Night Raw. Sometimes we'll cover NXT, sometimes we'll do Impact, we'll do AEW Dynamite and Friday Night SmackDown. We will post up special episodes for pay-per-views and such. However, this is just going to be a focus on the weekly televised shows. NXT TakeOver War Games will have a digital review uploaded to the W Factor blogcast, which is in the process of being set up. I'm just having a bit of technical issues with that, but I'll get that set up and get the digital review uploaded to that, along with the digital review of the first episode of ICW's Friday Night Fight Club that is up on the WWE Network now. Anyone that hasn't checked it out, I do recommend. So we'll start off this episode with Monday Night Raw, where we have the Firefly Funhouse doing a quick build into the Orton Wyatt feud. Randy challenges Bray to a match instead of challenging The Fiend. I'm not really sure about the psychology behind this. He knows The Fiend's weakness is Alexa. Kinda thought he would go straight for The Fiend, but he for some reason wants to go after Bray first.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to fill time until TLC, which would be Sunday night coming up. So yep, I suppose they had to fill it with something. So we do get that match later on in the night. We have Cedric Alexander, who, with the Hurt Business, I think Cedric Alexander is less relevant than what he was before the Hurt Business.
There's so many contrasting personalities there. He just kind of gets lumped in the mix.
Yeah, so when he was with Ricochet and... oh god, who else? I think it was basically Alexander and Ricochet. They were like a tag team, one of these tag teams that just thrown together. So they were friends backstage, they were tag team partners, and Cedric turned on Ricochet for a reason unbeknownst to me and joined the Hurt Business. And he just seems to be the smallest guy in the Hurt Business, both metaphorically and literally the smallest guy in the Hurt Business.
Somehow.
Yeah, they're not doing much with them. It's strange. So we've got the Hurt Business walking down this backstage corridor, and there's a box in Cedric Alexander's way, and he basically jumps out and says, he basically shouts for someone to move the box out of his way, just some sort of like backstage hand guy. It was very strange. Essentially had absolutely nothing going for it. Cedric Alexander just seems to be thrown in with the Hurt Business, and it's not changing either. It's not changing the team or Cedric in any way. So then we've got a mixed tag match, which is Ricochet and Dana Brooke taking on Slapjack and Reckoning. Reckoning is actually able to hold on to her mask for the entirety of the match.
Yeah.
Thank God for that. The match itself is okay. Ricochet, I don't know, Ricochet's still trying to do the sort of the high flying stuff, and I just don't think WWE's the environment for his sort of Japan style. So yeah, we've got that. Dana Brooke does alright actually, and compared to the fact that only a few months ago she was absolutely rubbish, she actually does quite good in this match. Ricochet and Dana Brooke pick up the win and sort of run away as the sort of good guys, because here comes the rest of Retribution. We move on to Miz.
It's just like,
I know.
Why is Retribution still a thing?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I would have just ended Retribution. Maybe not ended it, but maybe that's a bit extreme. Maybe I'm being a bit extreme here, but I would have definitely have just changed up some elements about Retribution. Okay, so yes, they've got masks, but they're not good masks. They don't have good names. They don't really do much individually. They always come out as a team, and they're always losing. So, I personally, I would just say, right, change them up. It's time to change them up,
It's
unfortunately.
The reason why they were fine is because I think WWE was pushed by some sort of like producer or something to make like some satisfactory new kind of storylines and all that, and then they came up with Raw Underground and Retribution. It's just so.
It's like they brought somebody in and he came up with Retribution, he came up with Raw Underground, and then
that was it.
he left.
Yeah.
And now they don't know where the storyline's going, so they were smart enough to just cancel Raw Underground.
I would say Retribution's like the worst thing in wrestling right now.
Oh yeah, I'd agree to that. I'd definitely agree to that. So after that mixed tag match, we've got Miz TV. So the Miz and Morrison have AJ Styles as their guest. It's quite entertaining. I say it's quite entertaining. It's entertaining enough for me to not want to skip through any of it. So I watched it. They were funny. The dynamic between them is obviously the Miz is like a shit heel, and I don't mean a bad heel. I mean like he's a sort of sly heel, sneaky and all that. Whereas AJ is a sort of the arrogant heel, and their personalities bounce off well with each other. And then Morrison is just quite funny in general.
Yeah, he's just been Morrison.
He's just been Morrison. He doesn't say much, but it is quite funny when he does say something. But Sheamus comes out to interrupt. They get into a bit of an argument. Sheamus's accent is definitely different from what it was like last year. I don't know why he's putting more emphasis onto his accent, but I love it. The Miz asks Sheamus how many friends he has, and the camera cuts to Sheamus and he does look a wee bit disheartened to think, Christ, I don't actually have any friends. But then we get bagpipes, and here comes our Drew, who's, as always, good smack talk, and then he sets up a 3 versus 2 handicap match for him and Sheamus to take on Miz, Morrison and AJ Styles. I
love Sheamus and Drew.
I think Sheamus and Drew is absolutely fantastic.
Have you seen the photos on their Instagram where they're just playing FIFA together?
Yeah.
And like you can just see the pure joy in their face.
I know.
It's amazing.
I think it's really good when two guys that do love football, like European football and stuff like that. And obviously that's not very well received in the US. Sorry, so it's almost as if when Sheamus and Drew moved over to America to do WWE, they had to kind of put their passion to the side of football, because they're not going to pick up soccer, because that's like the whole new teams and stuff like that. So Drew McIntyre is a Rangers fan, and Sheamus is a Celtic fan, and obviously that is the biggest rivalry in probably football in Great Britain history.
Generally, it's one of the most deadliest rivalries of all time.
Yeah.
In football, so
I would agree to that. So it's good to see these two guys as friends.
They've known each other for ages.
I know, which is really good. And Sheamus has actually never made an ICW appearance, which I thought was really strange. They are such good friends. Sheamus, I'm not really sure about Sheamus's independent work, but he went to WWE ages ago. He's been in that company for well over 10 years now.
Yeah.
And Drew came and went, and then went back into NXT and stuff like that. So it's really good to hear that they stayed friends. But just a little side note, have you ever heard or seen the documentary where Danny Dyer tries to break down the rivalry between Rangers and Celtic?
No.
Oh, it's the funniest thing. So he's standing outside of, I believe it's Celtic Park, he's standing outside, and he's talking to the camera about how dangerous it is and how scary it is and how he's a hard guy, but he's actually quite worried about being here. And a guy walks past him with like a rolling sausage and just goes, "Whoa, Celtic." And then Danny Dyer goes like that, "Christ, it's kicking off now." And that was it. It's just he just overemphasised it by he went way too deep in that. The bottom line, documentary was pretty rubbish because they never really got footage of anything bad happening, like any fights or anything like that. It was just showing people happy about the game and the match and stuff. So yeah, but where was I? Sheamus spends a good bit of time being beat up by everyone that's in the ring, apart from Drew. Obviously, Drew watches helplessly from the corner. Drew gets in to break up a submission. Sheamus gets the momentum, and in his arrogance, he bro kicks Drew because Miz, I believe it's Miz, jumps out of the way at the last second. So he's confused and he's regretful, and he takes a phenomenal forearm, and then AJ gets the pin. Backstage, Drew and Sheamus are sort of talking about what happened, and then they end up fighting with each other, like a full out brawl where security tries to separate them. And some guy, I believe it's the same guy that Nia Jax beat up, Sam something. Remember the guy that Nia Jax beat up and she was suspended and fined and shit like that, and then she showed up next week. So this guy tries to get in between the two of them, and again they do the same thing that Nia Jax done. They like beat him up, they take off his shirt, they like...
He must be a wrestler.
He must have some sort of wrestling experience at least, but yeah, this poor guy gets caught in the middle again and gets just torn apart. Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy and Matt Riddle. There we go.
Just like...
But Matt Hardy's just all of a sudden reappeared. So Jeff Hardy and Matt Riddle. Jeff takes on Bobby Lashley, but Matt Riddle has offered to help Jeff in this match to become the new Hardy Boys. He thinks that they could become the Hardy Bros. Also, Matt Riddle's walking about backstage with a box of donuts that's called Bronuts. And I don't think that WWE are picking on the sort of the innuendo that they're putting out there. Yeah, it's strange, but I still don't like Matt Riddle. So Jeff does pretty well against Bobby Lashley considering the massive size difference, but he does pass out when he gets put in this Hurt Locker submission, which I think everybody that's been put in that has passed out, unfortunately. Speaking about WWE innuendos, there was an episode of Raw, or it might have been SmackDown, in October, where Daniel Bryan was celebrating with the Street Profits on their victory, and he tried to get them to fist bump him, and they were all laughing and cheering, and Daniel Bryan was like, "Oh, come on bro, come on bro, come on bro," and then they all turned around to focus on him, and he just shouted at the top of his lungs, "Fist me bro." To which Kevin Owens, who was in the back, had to look away from the camera because of his laughter, and the Street Profits just sort of stood in silence before going, "Ah!" and then they all fist bumped him. And I don't know if that was on purpose or if that was just Daniel Bryan being like, "Do you know what, this is going to be a bit of a boring segment unless I do something else," and then he came up with that. Randy Orton takes on Bray Wyatt in a pretty decent match. Orton, as always, is great to watch, and Bray Wyatt actually gives him a good competition. Nothing really special happens, no big moves, no sort of noticeable comebacks or momentum shifts, but the Fiend does appear. It's a really weird sort of quick change thing, so the lights go out, the lights come back on and everything's red, and Bray Wyatt, who was lying on the floor, is now standing behind Randy Orton. He's clearly taken off that cardigan that he wears. He wrestles in that cardigan, man. That must be really uncomfortable.
It's
like really warm.
It's like when Cody's in his suit and he's wrestling in that.
There's something.
How do you manage it?
I know. That's too warm for me.
Was
I'm warm watching it.
Loomis as well.
Dexter Loomis.
Yeah.
Dexter Loomis wrestles in really tight jeans, like Dean Ambrose. Well, John Moxley, when he was Dean Ambrose, used to wrestle in sort of loose jeans, whereas Dexter Loomis wrestles in really tight jeans, but he still manages to get his leg like all the way up and stuff.
It must be like especially fit.
Yeah, they must have like wrestling jeans or whatever. So the Fiend locks on the claw. I'm not sure what glove he used. I believe it was the Hurt glove that he used.
I don't believe in that thing.
No, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure that WWE creative are smart enough to have come up with that. But the fans have come up with it, and there's nothing there's nothing to dispute it as of yet. Randy Orton was heel, and he hasn't. I wouldn't say stopped being heel, but I suppose in this match he would have to be the face, because there's no chance the Fiend is the face. He's like a demon. he's definitely not a face in that match. So I'm not sure what sort of dynamic they're going for. I hope it's not heel versus heel, because I just don't think that works for two small guys like Randy Orton and the Fiend or Bray Wyatt. Heel versus heel works when it's like big guys that are just throwing each other about the ring, destroying everything. There's no reason for their fight apart from one of them wants to be stronger than the other. That's it.
What do you think's a good example of that?
So a good example of heel versus heel would probably be Brock Lesnar versus probably Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman or something like that.
Right.
Like, neither guys are good guys. Braun Strowman's like a destroyer, and Brock Lesnar's like arrogant, but also kind of unstoppable. Well, not unstoppable, but yeah, heel versus heel doesn't work a lot, very often, but we'll see what the match turns out to be like. Then so that closes the show for Monday Night Raw. So we'll quickly move on to Impact. Now the only thing I've got to talk about Impact is Kenny Omega's appearance on Impact. So I did watch the entire show. I just don't really feel that for the podcast continuity wise, there's not much point in telling everyone about current rivalries and feuds and match situations and stuff. If you are interested in Impact, go back and watch maybe from what was their most recent one. The most recent one was I think it was Bound for Glory. Go back and watch Bound for Glory and then just catch yourself up on all the shows in between, and then you'll try to kind of figure out the feuds and stuff. But now with AEW and Impact sort of collaborating a little bit, what I'm going to talk about for Impact this week is the fact that Don Callis and Kenny Omega appeared in a backstage segment. It is a backstage segment, but they're not backstage physically in the arena. They're in a bus, like a rock star sort of tour bus sort of thing. So Josh Matthews comes out to interview them. He gets to ask like 2 questions before Don Callis and Kenny Omega basically tell him that his questions are wrong, and here's the questions he should be asking, and then they answer those questions.
What do you think Kenny Omega's acting was like?
Wasn't great.
Right.
It wasn't great.
It's weird. I don't know what's happened. Because he used to be okay at it.
He's quite cringy to watch
Uh-huh.
when he's doing his sort of video packages and stuff.
He feels more like a real character than a wrestler.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I think if he just dialed it back a wee bit, it would probably be. I know he's trying to come across as he's the heel champion. He's the best in the world. He's going to, he's the best in the wrestling business. He's going to get this title. He's going to get that title. He talks about in this segment. He talks about he's going to be collecting titles like he used to collect comic books when he was little.
Mm-hmm.
But he just comes across as a really poor actor.
I think his style of acting when wrestling really comes across better in Japan. I think.
Maybe.
I don't know. Who was the rest? I think it was Kenny when he was heel in Japan, where he just wouldn't speak Japanese and all that in interviews and all. I could be wrong, but I don't know. He done well.
I'm not sure, but I think I know who you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. It feels so weird because he's one of the most talented wrestlers I've ever seen.
I love watching his matches. I don't like watching anything out with the matches. Yeah. So yes, Don and Kenny Omega talk about their history. Well, Don does a lot of the talking about the history. So Don was trained by Kenny's uncle, who was the Golden Sheik, and basically what happened is, Kenny's dad fell out of Kenny's uncle fell out of the wrestling business. I think he passed away. They don't mention that, and I haven't looked into it, but I believe he passed away. So Don sort of became his like god uncle and a bit of a father figure for Kenny. So yeah, Don Callis helped Kenny get into the wrestling business, get into the training side of it, get into Japan. Don Callis arranged the Jericho versus it was Jericho versus Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom, which Tony Khan has commented on the fact that that match is the birth of AEW, because he watched that match and went, "Ooh, I know what I want to do with my billions of dollars. I want to set up my own wrestling company and put on matches like this," which they've done, not often, but they've done a lot of their pay-per-views, especially the first pay-per-view has been, you know, so well received that it does rival Japan sometimes. So yeah, they talk about how Kenny became who he is now, and how Don helped him even though they weren't together all that time. So Don did leave Japan and come to America to continue work as a VP for Impact, but not someone who appears on camera a lot. But all the while still in contact with Kenny, still giving Kenny advice, still helping Kenny with booking matches and stuff like that, all from, you know, the other side of the world. So their relationship is it's very unknown, but Don does talk about it as if it is like there's a lot behind the scenes that we don't know about, and now with the collaboration coming up, we're going to find out all about this history. So as I say, Kenny starts to talk about how he was an avid comic book collector, and he's going to get into that hobby again, but instead of collecting comic books, he's going to be collecting belts. And he promises a big announcement on Dynamite. Now, unfortunately, once we get to Dynamite, you know, you'll realise that there wasn't much of a big announcement. They basically said the exact same stuff that they said on Impact, which was poor, really poor. Not much of a big announcement.
It really takes away from the whole brand to brand, like you're gonna have to jump from each one to understand what's going on kind of thing. Kind of takes away from the whole
the way they treated this air quotes big announcement was that if you didn't see Impact, that's okay because I'm going to repeat myself on Dynamite. It was weird. It was odd. But Kenny done the old thing that he does in Japan, where he says, is it goodbye and good night? I think it's goodbye, and then he kisses his fingers, points to the sky, turns it into a gun, points at the camera, and he says good night, and he goes bang. And he said it so loud that I genuinely did get a bit of a jump scare because I just wasn't expecting it to be that loud. Later on in Impact, we have a paid promotional ad by Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone. Now, I thought this was a lot better than Kenny Omega's actual segment. Tony Khan comes across as really sarcastic, so he's talking about how well Impact are doing and how excited he is to see Kenny Omega and to see Impact and AEW work together, but he says it all with this underlying tone that is kind of like, yeah, I'm excited for it, but we're still the bigger brand and the better company and stuff like that. So it was a fun little character for Tony Khan to be playing. Tony Khan then asked Tony Schiavone, when did he last appear on Impact? And Tony replies, one night, and then I quit the business for 18 years. And I just thought that was amazing to say. Tony Khan talks about how Impact, he has heard that Impact has some good tag teams, and he is looking to branch out the tag teams on Dynamite, so he might come by and see if anyone wants to have a quick chat with him, which I thought was quite a good heel thing to say for this character that Tony Khan's sort of making himself out to be. He mentions that there's rumours that he's going to buy Impact completely, and he just finishes it by saying, but I've got no comment on that just now. No comment normally means that there's something deeper going on. Yeah. But yeah, so that's cool. That was cool. So that was Impact. So next we'll move on to NXT. Again, this is just going to be a short review. As I mentioned at the start, the War Games review, digital review, will be uploaded to our blog as soon as I can get past the technical issues. But NXT this week is the Fallout show from War Games. Some of the things from War Games I will mention is the women's War Games match was surprisingly a lot better than expected. I would probably go as far to say that NXT has the best women's division out of all of the promotions.
I can definitely think of NXT women a lot more.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it's just like, I can think of NXT people a lot more in general, just the way they look. It's a lot more memorable.
I would definitely say that there's a guy I'm going to mention that comes out later on who's fucking cool looking, by the way. He just looks cool. It's got nothing to do with his wrestling style. His music plays and he walks out, and I was like, wow, that's a cool looking guy.
Is it like Loomis, like his
Dexter Loomis is cool looking, but in a sort of scary way. Whereas this guy, Damian Priest, he's just downright cool looking.
Who's your favourite looking wrestler of all time?
Currently, or do you mean of all time,
All
like
time.
in history?
All
Oh
time.
jeez, my favourite looking wrestler. I've always liked black and white face paint Sting.
Okay. I quite like his like colourful side as well.
See, I thought his colourful side was too much like Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, I get that.
I did like Ultimate Warrior's look. I liked colourful skins look, colourful Sting's look. However, I would probably say that my favourite looking wrestler of all time is the black and white face paint Sting.
What about Joker Sting?
No, Joker Sting didn't do anything for me. I wouldn't say anything.
Mine, right, would have to be Scott Steiner.
Scott Steiner's one of my favourite wrestlers. Just it doesn't matter what he looks like. It's the fact that I once watched a TNA match where Scott Steiner beat up 7 people just so that he could get a lap dance at the end of it.
It's just like
He walked out with a tiger on multiple occasions, like a live tiger, and there's the Numbers Don't Lie promo, which is the number one best promo of all time. It beats Dusty Rhodes' Working Man promo, which is good. It's motivational. It's heartwarming. It tugs at the heartstrings, but it doesn't make you laugh, and I think it's missing that.
it's just like Scott Steiner has that chainmail over his
The
head.
chainmail helmet
With sunglasses.
yeah.
It's just, and then he's got that little what's that called, that beard thing.
It's like a goatee, a
But-
white goatee with like a black sort of soul patch
Yeah.
kind of bit.
I think he just looks amazing.
Scott Steiner's got a brother. I don't know if you knew that.
I don't.
So Scott Steiner and his brother, they had a match in the UK, and I don't know where you would find it. I don't know if you can find it on YouTube. I've not tried to look for it, but I've seen a clip from it, and it was the Steiner brothers versus Kid Fight, who actually doesn't live far away from where we are recording just now. He's quite nearby. So Kid Fight and his tag team partner at the time, I can't remember who it was. In Scott Steiner's, the thing is, Kid Fight and his partner at the time, they did a lot of in the ring calling, which is when you rehearse the match a little bit, or you don't rehearse it, but you at least tell them what you're going to do step by step as much as you can, and then once you get in the ring, you throw things in the middle. So you'll get the guy in the headlock, you'll look down so that the crowd can't see you, and it looks as if you're tightening your grip, and you'll say something like clothesline, and then that person knows that they've to do something to get out of the headlock, push you off the ropes, and then you'll come back and hit them with a clothesline. So, and a lot of UK guys do that. A lot of UK guys will do a little bit backstage, and then once they get in the ring, they do the majority of it on the fly, if you will. So the Steiner brothers didn't work like that, or at least the younger Steiner brother, I think his name's Rick Steiner. Rick Steiner doesn't work like that. So Kid Fight was in a wrist lock, and he, selling the wrist lock was like, okay, now we'll do like a headlock takeover or something like that, and Scott Steiner did that move, and then Kid Fight's partner broke it up, and Scott Steiner tagged his brother, and they went for the they went for the headlock. Sorry, they went for the collar elbow tie up, and Kid Fight in an interview revealed that he said, "Do you want to get heat or do you want to go over?" And apparently Scott Steiner's brother just went blah, blah, blah. So Kid Fight had no idea what was going on, and the match just continued, and there was so many not botches but like stalls and rest holds, because they had to discuss what they were going to do next, and this guy just kept going blah, blah, blah. Just kept sounding like the Tasmanian devil. Yeah, so that's just a wee side note. There we go.
It's an interesting story.
It reminded me a lot of the Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, where Bret Hart said, I'm gonna cut you, I'm gonna blade you off the back of a clothesline, and Steve Austin didn't want to sound like a wuss, so he was like, oh yeah, that sounds good, we'll do that. And then they did the clothesline, and as Stone Cold was coming back, he was like, oh wait, hold on. And Bret just punched him right in the face with a razor blade in between his middle finger. Oh, that was great. But that's a famous picture of like Stone Cold covered in blood.
Yeah.
And all you need to do is listen to the Stone Cold podcast where he talks about that, and it is just like, he was scared to take the blade, but he also was scared to tell him that he was scared to take the blade, so he just went for it, and then at the last second he tried to get Bret to stop. Okay, so yes, Luke, your favourite looking wrestler is Scott Steiner.
Yeah.
There we go. So NXT, Finn Balor is back. We got a really good sort of video for Finn Balor coming back at War Games, where he was basically saying War Games is all about the teams tonight, and it's all about these guys tonight, but as soon as War Games is done, all eyes will be on the Prince, which is what he's calling himself now. So Finn Balor opens the show. He's in the ring, he's got the NXT title over his shoulder, he's talking about who's going to face next, and his match with Kyle O'Reilly, and busted up jaw and stuff like that. Pete Dunne, music plays, he comes out. Doesn't get a chance to say a lot, but he's basically he's getting in the face of Finn Balor, challenging him to a match and stuff. Kyle O'Reilly then comes out, who says that he's due his match after what happened at TakeOver 30. Damien Priest then comes out, who lost a triple threat match for the North American title. But Damien Priest comes out and he basically says that he's done he's done going after mid-card belts, he's looking for the gold now. And at this point, the three men that have entered, so Pete Dunne, Kyle O'Reilly and Damien Priest, are all arguing with each other, and Finn Balor has left the ring and walked away, and nobody noticed it until one guy turns around and he's like, wait, where are you going? And Finn's like, oh well, I didn't come out here to fight anybody, I came out here to reintroduce myself to the NXT universe and get all eyes on me again. And obviously the three of you just want to bicker like children. As Finn is ready to leave, Karrion Kross's music plays. Killer Kross was his TNA name, but obviously they decided that Killer was too hardcore for NXT. So Karrion Kross's music hits. He's back, and Scarlett Bordeaux comes out, so his wife comes out wearing this really weird, like, hedgehog cosplay thing. It's so strange. It's like a black leather outfit, skin tight, but then it's got these big massive spikes all over the shoulders and back.
I mean, let her be.
It's just inconvenient. So yeah, she comes out, she doesn't say anything, and Finn says, no, Finn doesn't say anything actually, it's Damien Priest that says something. So Finn leaves, Scarlett Bordeaux, she goes to leave, and Damien Priest shouts on her. He comes out the ring and walks towards her, and basically says, instead of your man sitting in the car, why doesn't he come face me and take me on? Scarlett smiles and walks away. Later on, Johnny Gargano, the new North American champion after War Games, comes out to celebrate, but is interrupted by Priest, who on his walk down to the ring is taken out by Karrion Kross, just fucking wipes him out with a mean sort of like hit to the back, like a rear clothesline almost.
Mhm.
Then he picks him up, beats him up, throws him into the Titantron, picks him up, power bombs him into the power bombs him through a table, and then just walks away. The camera follows him all the way through, and he gets in his car, which is like Mad Max looking, and then drives away.
It's like, it's insane that you listen to NXT and it just sounds so much more interesting.
So much better than Monday Night Raw SmackDown put together. So that was NXT. That's all I've got to say in NXT just now. So the next show would be AEW Dynamite, where we open the show with the Young Bucks taking on TH2, which stands for the Hybrid 2.
Okay.
Don't love the tag team name, but I prefer it when they're just called the TH2, like initials. I don't feel that TH2 is a team that's had enough build up since their appearance on AEW Dark. However, they're just going straight in there with the tag team champions. It's not a title match, but the match that they're having, to me, it just seems a bit out of place. But both teams have got pretty good chemistry with their partners, but the Bucks do end up winning. Darby puts out another video where he sees a therapist and he does the Rorschach test.
Rorschach.
Rorschach.
Shack.
There we go. Rorschach test. So the therapist pulls out the first card and he asks Darby Allin what he sees, and Darby says he sees Ricky Starks. It's very weird because I don't know how that looks like Ricky Stark. So he sees Ricky Starks. He says it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He then pulls out another one. He says, "What do you see?" He says a snake in the grass, and then the video cuts to Will Hobbs betraying Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes. Then he pulls out the third card and he says, "What do you see here?" And the third card is very clear. Like, the first two didn't make any sense to me of how he's seen that, but the third card, it is like a silhouette of a big muscular man. And he says, "Oh, Brian Cage, I see a puppet, but I also see a number one contender for the TNT title, because he's never beaten me alone. And since Brian Cage debuted, he's tried to end Darby's 27-year career or something like that. So no, it can't be 27-year career because the guy is only 27. Brian Cage has tried to end his career since he debuted in AEW, and then he pulls out the fourth picture and he says, "What do you see here?" And it's very clearly Sting's face. And instead of saying anything, Darby just laughs, sort of maniacally. After that, we've got Cody Rhodes that comes out with Arn Anderson. Tony Schiavone gets in the ring and Sting's entrance plays. Arn submits to Sting. He just grabs a mic and he basically says, "Listen, I don't belong here. It's good seeing you. See you later." And he just leaves. Tony gives Sting the mic and Sting thanks Tony for all of the success in his career. If it wasn't for Tony Schiavone coming up with the "It's Sting" phrase that he came up with back in WCW, Sting feels that his career wouldn't be as good as it was, which is a lot of praise to give to someone. So he gets Tony to do the "It's Sting" one more time, and he does it, and it's really long and it's really cool. And for a lot of older fans, I imagine it was quite emotional to hear, especially with both men in the ring again. So the fans start to chant, "This is awesome," and Sting joins in the chants, which is
Sting was really good.
So Sting mentions that he's here for the AEW fans, whether that means he's going to be performing for the fans or his presence is going to be like the fans' embodiment through him. Not sure what they're doing, but
it seems like a performance because he's got that bat and all that.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get that catchphrase back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's weird. I want to see him wrestling, but
I want to see him wrestling as well. I think it'd be really cool. So Cody talks about how he's always wanted to, we've been waiting a long time to be in a ring with Sting and go toe to toe with Sting. Sting cuts him off and says, "Oh, I'm not here for you, kid." I mean, not just now anyway, but I'm not here for you, Cody. Good to see you, but I'm not here for you. He talks about how AEW is very familiar without actually using the 3 letters WCW. He talks about he's very familiar, he feels like he's at home, there's something familiar about the ring, there's something familiar about the fans. Everything just seems to be designed for him. And there's also something very familiar up there, and he points up in the arena bleachers where Darby Allin is sitting with his TNT title. And I think that's where the feud's going. I think his first match, I think it's going to be against Darby. I don't think they're going to put a title on Sting though.
I think if Sting were to wrestle, it would be championship.
I think Sting sees himself in Darby. Like he sees a younger
Yes.
version of Sting in Darby Allin.
I don't think he definitely doesn't see colourful Sting.
Not colourful Sting, but like
the transition into that.
Yeah, like the vigilante Sting he sees in Darby Allin, and I think they will have a match, but I think Sting will end up sort of mentoring Darby, which I think might be quite cool. But yeah, he slaps Cody on the back, and it's one of these sort of comedy slaps where it's really quite hard. The guy really reacts to it, but it's not supposed to be sore. It's just like I don't know, would you call it like a friendly slap in the back, but there's also a sort of malicious meaning behind it.
Yeah,
so Cody takes this big slap in the back, he jolts forward, Sting puts his arm around him and he says I'll see you around, kid. Calls him kid like 3 times. I thought that was quite
It gives
subtle,
a reason for
yeah.
Cody to kind of like...
it makes Cody angry, yeah. So FTR take on the Varsity Blondes, which are Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. Actually a lot better team than I thought they were going to be. I've watched them a couple of times on Dark before they had their tag team name, and I thought they were good, but I thought they were like Dark level good. Like, I wouldn't have put them on Dynamite, but I'm glad they decided to because it was a really good match, and as always it was a pleasure to watch FTR who pull out the victory. Hangman is backstage at a bar, obviously, drinking his hand, obviously. Alex Marvez comments on Hangman taking on Private Party and Matt Hardy, which is a 3-man team, but he doesn't have a team himself. Hangman says, "Oh, don't you worry, that's my concern." And from behind him we see 2 tiny cowboy hats rise really slowly, and Alex Reynolds and John Silver of the Dark Order are underneath those cowboy hats, and they both go, "Howdy, partner," and they offer to be his tag team partners for the upcoming match. However, Hangman asks them how long they've been waiting there, and they both look at each other, and then they're like 7 minutes or something like that. Like they admit to have just been behind that bar for ages waiting for this to happen.
It's good comedy.
It's good comedy, especially for the Dark Order being as serious as it is, or starting out as serious as it is, and sort of having moments of seriousness. It's good that there's members within the Dark Order that can be funny. Apparently being the Elite is really good with the Dark Order just now. I've seen a clip of the Dark Order and Hangman having like a party to try and introduce Hangman to get him to join the Dark Order. So Hangman's there with a bottle of whiskey, not a glass, a bottle of whiskey, and he's got all the Dark Order are all drunk and steaming and stuff like that, so they're all falling over each other. You know the really threatening guy in Dark Order, the guy that goes by, I think he's number 10. He's like really tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wore a horse's mask and was walking about on all fours to try and get Hangman to ride them. And they were all going, "Ride, go on, take the ride them and stuff." Hangman climbed on his back, and number 10 stood up and like a piggyback, and they all started jumping and having a great time. Evil Uno, who's supposed to be like the voice of Brody Lee, with Brody Lee not being there, puts his arm over Hangman, and he's clearly drunk, so he's got all this written down on his hand, and he starts by calling him Hungman, because it's all scrubbed, it's all like sweat and all like scrubbed off. So he's looking at his hand and he's like, Hungman, will you join the Dark Order? And at this point, I don't think Hangman knew that they were going to call him that. So he starts laughing, looking away, but the camera's right in his face. So he's like, they call it corpsing when they can't help but laugh, and they're on camera. So you also see people in the behind scene all turning around because they can't face the camera after hearing him being called Hungman. So yeah, that was great.
It's like, they pulled it off so well. It's mainly like the wrestlers and like they put their own input in it. It's like that's what Retribution would try to be with like T-Bar and Twitter trying to throw all these shots, but it's just.
I know. The thing is, see if T-Bar was as funny as he was on social media, sometimes he can be funny. If he was funny on TV, I think Retribution would be a little bit over. Yeah, there'd be people saying that they're just copying the Dark Order, but at least it would make Raw a bit better to watch, a bit easier to watch. Speaking of the Dark Order number 10, Dustin Rhodes takes on number 10 in a one-on-one match. Dustin, absolutely amazing. Honestly, you would not know that this guy is the age that he is. At the end of the match, after his victory, Evil Uno and the rest of the Dark Order come out, and Evil Uno tries to get him to join the Dark Order. Obviously, they're clearly trying to expand their ranks a bit, but someone from the Nightmare family, I can't remember the guy's name, but he comes out to help Dustin because the Dark Order have surrounded the sort of the upper ring. He hits Evil Uno. The Dark Order all sort of retreat on Evil Uno's command, and he says that they're not finished, so he was not done trying to recruit him. Tony Schiavone and Brandy Rhodes sit down with Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq.
How did I know? I swear I'd have seen something about that. I was on the YouTube looking at clips and I didn't see it. Okay, right.
So yeah, I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because I still don't know why it's happening. So, Shaq talks about his relationship with Jade Cargill, who was the girl that appeared on Dynamite a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Who basically referred to Cody having a small penis. Shaq talks about how he knew Jade before she was a bodybuilder, a fitness model, and a wrestler. He's known her all this time. He's helped her get to where she is, and he's very proud of how far she's come. Now, Jade last week on Dynamite broke Brandy's arm, just in a daft backstage segment that I don't think we covered because they didn't mention it was broken until social media, like the next couple of days. So yeah, Brandy's got a broken arm, and Shaq apologises for it. Says that he's proud of Jade up until the point where she broke her arm. She broke Brandy's arm. So she apologises for that. And Brandy's like, that's fine. Listen, let's just move on. And Shaq says, I watch Dynamite every week. I love it. I think your husband and his family, his brother and stuff are absolutely amazing. I love everybody's work. While you're recovering, you should probably watch Jade and try and get some pointers for your upcoming match. So Brandy, her back turned because she was on her way out of the room. Brandy stops, laughs, says that this is bullshit, picks up Tony's glass of water, throws it right in Shaq's face. And you know that really famous sort of gif of Shaquille O'Neal where he takes a bite out of a chicken wing and then he looks at the camera and he's like, He makes that exact same face. He gets a glass of water thrown on him, he looks at the camera and he's like, ooh, all sort of shocked looking. That was it. Not a lot to say on the Shaquille O'Neal bit apart from the water being thrown in the face. The Inner Circle ultimatum. MJF says that he says he wasn't going to throw in the towel. He says that he says, Christopher, I swear to God, Christopher, I had sweat on my brow and I was just wiping it away. To which Chris is like, no, listen, Sammy, we all watched Dynamite the next night, we all seen it, you were going to throw it in. You didn't. We know that Sammy wasn't going to throw it in, but there we go. Let's move on. So Sammy and MJF start shouting at each other. MJF is still trying to get across that he loves Sammy, and Sammy doesn't believe a word he's saying. Ortiz says he loves Sammy, but he's been a bit of a baby. He doesn't like MJF, but he's growing on him like a fungus, but growing on him nonetheless. And he says that they should just shake hands and get it over with. So they both shake hands. Sammy says that if one more thing happens with MJF doing something, he will quit the Inner Circle. And Chris is like, okay, right, that's serious talk now. So they're all ready to celebrate everything being good, everyone being happy. MJF going to have this diamond ring match against Orange Cassidy. They're all happy. And Jake Hager pipes up and says, listen, before we move on, I'm not very happy. Why does this guy keep staring at me? And he just points at Wardlow, who is like, hasn't said anything this entire time. He's just got this like murderous look in his eyes, staring directly at Jake Hager. And at this point, I've never heard Wardlow speak so much. He picks up his mic and he's like, I'm not staring at you, you've been staring at me this entire goddamn time. They're like, I'm not staring at you. Quite frankly, it's creeping me out how much you're staring at me. Wardlow's like, you've been staring at me since I started this company. So he honestly, he says the most I think I've ever heard the guy say, ever. So yeah, they both are like, listen, why, Chris Jericho intervenes, like, listen, why don't we all just stop staring at each other? Then Wardlow's like, I can stop whenever I want. Jake Hager's like, I never started, I can stop as well. So yeah, I think there's going to be an issue with the two big guys in the group. However, Sammy and MJF seem to be on thin ice, but still together nonetheless.
It gives like reason for Jake Hager to like go against MJF as
yeah.
well. So it's interesting where they'll go.
I like that they're keeping it going. I like that they didn't end it, shortly after MJF joined Inner Circle. I like that they're still going with that. Eddie Kingston, Butcher and Blade take on Lance Archer and the Lucha Bros. Not a bad match overall, but Archer has definitely lost his relevancy. He still comes out with Jake the Snake Roberts, but he's just, he's not as intimidating as he was. The heels end up picking up a victory, which is Kingston, Butcher and Blade in this instance. They pick up the win and they leave. Lance Archer threatens to attack them after the bell, but Jake the Snake's like, no, don't do it, man, just leave it. Kenny Omega arrives in a helicopter. He meets Tony Schiavone in the ring, says he's disgusted. Tony says that he's disgusted with how Don Callis basically threw in the microphone that Kenny used to hit John Moxley in the face with and stuff, and Kenny's like, well, of course I used it as a weapon. Never mind, like, yes, there was the gentleman's agreement that they were going to have a normal wrestling match, nothing too extreme, but when John Moxley hit essentially who Kenny views as a dad, he lost it emotionally and used it as a weapon. And Tony Schiavone's got nothing, he can't say anything to that because that is completely justified. Don Callis takes credit for making AEW by explaining again the Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega match at Wrestle Kingdom 14. Omega does a little bit of talking about how he's the best in the world and best in the business, and pretty much what he said on Impact. I did say that he repeated himself quite a bit. He then again does the goodbye and good night kiss and then gunshot. Still cringy, but no big announcement.
Well, I think it's like a part, like what you say is cringy is what other people see as charm.
It is something he did back in Japan, so it could be that now that he's doing that, he's trying to get across that he is not AEW Kenny Omega, he is now best in the world Kenny Omega again.
It's odd because Japan and West is just so different in terms of wrestling. It's hard to get across, like,
yeah,
because like think about like AJ Styles was so different in Japan. Finn Balor was so different in Japan as well. Still
the Good Brothers were different in Japan, and they were completely buried in AEW. No, completely buried in WWE, and now they're sort of slowly building their way back up now that they're in Impact. So the main event then is an okay match between MJF and Orange Cassidy. I like watching Orange Cassidy. I just don't think Orange Cassidy's main event.
Okay.
There's just something.
I get that.
Yeah, the Inner Circle came out. They help MJF as heels do. Best friends can't take on all of the Inner Circle, so they leave, and everyone thinks that they've just left Orange Cassidy. However, they come back with Top Flight, which is a tag team of two brothers, Brandon Cutler, which is one guy, and the Varsity Blondes, which is Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison from earlier on that we've seen. So Inner Circle can't intervene in the match because there's now an equal amount of people on the face side that will fight them off. So sort of a stalemate. They both watch each other, make sure they don't intervene. Chris Jericho throws in the baseball bat, which I believe is called Floyd. I think he named it Floyd. I think that was around about the time they did the Stadium Stampede. So MJF picks up the bat and he does what Eddie Guerrero does. He throws the bat at Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy catches it. MJF then takes a bump and lies there, selling a shot. However, the referee doesn't look but round. The referee's still dealing with the outside of the ring distractions. So MJF is just sort of looking at the ref like, okay, I'm down, I've been hit in the face, come on. The referee doesn't turn round, so MJF gets up, tries to attack Orange Cassidy, who throws the bat at MJF and then goes down himself, to which point the referee has turned round and he's like, what the fuck, man, you're not supposed to use the bat, you're not supposed to use weapons, I'm not going to disqualify you because I didn't see it, but don't do it again. So he throws the bat away. Chris Jericho picks up the bat, threatens to use it on one of the best friends that gets a little bit too close, but doesn't, because the referee's like, listen, I'll kick all of yous out if yous don't start acting like adults here.
I quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like inspiration from an amazing legendary wrestler, and just kind of flipping it on his head a bit.
Yeah.
Quite enjoy. I thought they would have been disqualified. I thought MJF would have been disqualified though.
So the commentators sort of fill in the blanks here, because I would have said it was a bare disqualification as well, but the commentators fill in the blanks by saying that the referee can't call a disqualification unless he's seen it. Okay. Which is, I suppose, it's not wrong. It's like the referee can't disqualify you if he doesn't see that your feet are on the ropes when you're doing a pin, so you've got more weight on you, and it stops the person from kicking out. The referee can't say you're cheating at that moment unless he sees it, and obviously they can't revert the match. They can't null and void the match after the fact. You know, once the bell rings, that's that. So there is a bit of confusion. Because Miro has got involved and he attacks Orange Cassidy without the referee seeing it. MJF then just lies down on top of him and takes the win. Miro leaves, the referee turns round and he's like, right, something happened, I've done the 3 count, I'm not sure how it happened, but it's fine. So MJF wins. He is a 2 times holder of the Diamond Ring. And that's how they close the show. So not a bad Dynamite, not the best of Dynamites, but can't always be great.
It's still better than
WWE. Still better than WWE. So we will wrap up the review of wrestling with SmackDown, which I have almost nothing to talk about, unfortunately. SmackDown again is the poorest of the week's shows. SmackDown had Kevin Owens take on Jey Uso in preparation for the TLC match that he'll have against Roman Reigns. No real progression. The match is still going ahead. Reigns versus Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens talked about how the match is the most important match he's going to have in his career, which I think they're maybe just saying it because it's the only match he's got coming up just now. It's really not. I wouldn't say it's the most important match of his career. There's loads of matches he's had previously that I would probably say are more important. However, it is what it is. Big E got an opportunity to take on Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship, which ended in a count out. So I think that's quite good that Sami Zayn gets to keep the belt for a little bit longer. But Big E has proved himself worthy of another title shot.
I think Big E would be a great title holder.
I think he'd be a fantastic mid-card title holder just now. So, yep, that was... There's a little bit of story progression for Sasha Banks versus Carmella, but it's nonchalant, it's rubbish, unfortunately. So yeah, that's SmackDown. So we've also got a couple more things to talk about, not relating to the week of wrestling. See if I can find my notes because I had it in an order. So fan interactions this week. I asked everyone what they thought about the collaboration between Impact and AEW, and asked them if they wanted to book some fantasy matches. We have Joshua Golder, who felt that he would love to see Sami Callihan versus Jon Moxley in a Monster Ball / a hardcore match. Now, Jon Moxley and Sami Callihan were partners in Combat Zone Wrestling, CZW, tag team partners that eventually broke up and had an absolutely fantastic match between each other, which ended in a lot of bloodshed, and a lot of people would love to see this. So Joshua Golder, well done. Michael Phillips would like to see Moose take on Kenny Omega for a title versus title. He would like to see the Motor City Machine Guns take on FTR, or the Young Bucks taking on Gallows and Anderson. Now, the Young Bucks and Gallows and Anderson are all members of the Bullet Club, but from different periods.
Which is like a really good
So
setup.
the Young Bucks is like the new Bullet Club, whereas the Good Brothers, or Gallows and Anderson, if you want to call them that, they are the original Bullet Club. So I think that'd be quite cool. Kurt Hawkins versus Matt Cardona, if he's still signed with AEW. I heard he's not. That might be something we'll need to double check though, but if so, that would be quite good, because obviously they are best friends in real life, and they could turn that into a story, I suppose, if they wanted to. But yeah, Michael Phillips, thank you for that. Ezra Kazee has two matches that come to mind. The North versus FTR. I think that would be pretty cool. However, I would probably stick to Motor City Machine Guns versus FTR just now. I don't know, I kind of feel that they're doing something else with the North just now, and putting them against FTR just wouldn't work at this moment. Ezra Kazee is also the only person that put forward fantasy bookings for a women's match. Unfortunately, I've been through all of the comments. We had loads and loads of comments. I think we were close to hitting 100 comments and suggestions. A lot of people repeating other people. Everyone's got roughly the same idea of what they want to see, but unfortunately Ezra Kazee was the only person that had a female based fantasy booking. So he went for Rosemary versus Abaddon. Rosemary representing Impact and Abaddon representing AEW. She comes out all demon-like, spits blood and stuff like that. Also Su Yun, who I believe is doing a bit of a grudge girl sort of thing, against Abaddon, could be quite good as well, according to Ezra. With a little bit of prodding from myself on Ezra, I wanted to get his opinion on Sami Callihan versus Jon Moxley. He says that doesn't interest him, but Sami Callihan versus Brody Lee might be quite good, which I thought, not a bad idea.
I think John should take a break.
I think so as well. I think that's what he's doing, because he wasn't on Dynamite this week.
He's got a kid coming out.
Yeah.
He's been carrying wrestling
in general. We've got Tyler Eberhardt, who feels that if Abyss was still in TNA, it would be great if he took on Darby Allin. They could do a bit of a David versus Goliath when they throw in where they throw in some barbed wire and stuff like that. So I think that'd be pretty cool. Abyss, unfortunately, I believe is doing backstage work at WWE now. I believe he took off the mask and put on a suit. Justin Hughes put forward Eddie Edwards versus Jon Moxley, Jordan Grace versus Nyla Rose. Oh no, sorry, I do apologise. That's a second person putting forward a women's match.
Woohoo!
Chris Bay versus Sammy Guevara. That could be interesting. The Motor City Machine Guns versus FTR. Yep, Moose versus Wardlow, which would be pretty cool. Both guys being quite big guys, and it could give Wardlow an opportunity at a title. With Moose being the TNA champion, I believe. Rich Swann versus Darby Allin. I don't really like Rich Swann, and I feel Darby Allin could maybe go up against someone else. Trying to think if there's anything else. That was all the fan interaction we had. I might think of another fantasy booking and put that out in the social medias and see if we can get much response. This one was really good. As I say, we almost hit 100, and yeah, a lot of good suggestions from people. Other news in wrestling, Keith Lee and Otis have been put back to the Performance Centre to practice their in-ring work.
Yeah, Vince McMahon threw a fit, quotations, threw a fit, and
I think that's a joke.
Keith Lee was Vince's fault.
Yeah.
He is
no doubt.
He's not bad, but he's Vince's fault, and Otis is being given absolutely nothing to do really, and I'm gonna say that Aleister Black might be back in there as well, because
you might be right.
Where is he?
Exactly, you might be right. A lot of people are saying people that should go to Performance Centre, one of which is Nia Jax, and people that should get a main event push is Keith Lee. Unfortunately, that's just not how Vince thinks. So yes, I don't really have much else to talk about. Actually no, hold on a second, I do. Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes have announced that they are due a baby in 2021. And I think that might be actually not a lot of wrestling news. There's been some sort of progress in storylines. Obviously this episode of the W Factor's a bit later than normal, so there has been another episode of Impact. And another episode of Dynamite. Now Dynamite, there wasn't much of a progression with storylines, however Impact have announced that at their January pay-per-view Hard to Kill, Kenny Omega will actually make an appearance in a match with the Good Brothers as they take on Chris Bay and two other guys who I've completely forgotten their names now. So Kenny Omega will actually appear in a match on Impact. Could we have Impact guys coming over to Dynamite? Who knows? Fingers crossed. That would be quite interesting, but we'll see what happens. Other than that, I don't think there's much else to talk about.
No, I don't think so.
So let me just double check my notes here, make sure all good. So yep, the W Factor champion is Jon Moxley just now. Obviously we didn't have Jon Moxley make an appearance, so nominations for the W Factor champion. I would probably say that a good nomination might be Sheamus or Drew. I think it might also be good to nominate.
It was a good week of wrestling, but no one really stood out, did they?
I would probably actually say that Dustin again stood out really well.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I'd say Dustin did really well. I wouldn't put forward MJF or Orange Cassidy for their match. No. Actually, you know what? Dustin's probably the only person I would nominate for this week of wrestling. There was some people that were there's some moments and some people that were cool. However, cool factor isn't the only thing you have to take into consideration. Dustin is, just his age alone and the fact that he can do all of the things that he does is amazing, so I would definitely nominate Dustin for that one.
I agree, yeah.
Dustin. There we go.
There's our W Factor
champion, Dustin Rhodes. I'll put up a post this evening, sort of tribute to him, I suppose. Now, as I said at the beginning, there is a W Factor blog cast. I'm currently dealing with some technical issues, but that will be up and running soon, and that's where we will upload side projects that we don't have time to review on the main show. There will also be some scheduling changes to the main show because of other commitments outside of the W Factor and work commitments and stuff. But there will be changes come the new year, no doubt. and we'll just try and adapt to make things good and to keep things as good as it has been quality wise. We also have a Discord. Unfortunately I'm still trying to figure out how Discord works, but we will get that sorted. We'll get links put on social media, whatever we need to do. I'll also put out some stuff on social media about people that have promoted our show over the past couple of weeks and give them a bit of recognition and see if we can get you guys to check out their stuff as well. Most of them are guys on Twitch, guys on YouTube and stuff, other Facebook pages, but we'll get all that out. And as a favour for us, just go and check them out, leave them a like, follow, subscribe, whatever you can do. Obviously you help them out, they help us out. Everyone help each other.
Everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy. The circle of life. There we go. So thank you for tuning in. Good night. No, sorry. What is it? Kenny Wing says. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye. Mwah. And good night.